about 56% that are active subscribers right now, and the remainder do not currently have a subscription. So here's a question, because it's a special week here. Are you here on the test drive? Maybe you're an existing subscriber and you're trying out the premium channels. Maybe you're not a subscriber at all, and maybe you're not a subscriber at all. And actually, just enter no for that. I should have had 3 choices here. I thought I did. So either yes, you're on the test drive, or no, you're already a subscriber, or you're not a subscriber at all. And I'll let a couple more of you vote here. But it looks like it's going to be not too dissimilar from the last question here. So here in the room, we've got about 44% that are visiting on the test drive, or already subscribers that are on standard and trying out the premium features. And the remainder are already subscribers, or none of the above. Thanks, guys. It's just good to kind of know this kind of stuff. I'll come back a little bit later and talk to you about the specials that we're offering for this week. In the meantime, I'm going to turn you over to Steve, but just a reminder, this webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be up later this evening or tomorrow morning, and you'll receive a follow-up email with that information. And if you have questions, you can ask them in the questions panel. I'll try my best to answer them. If you have something directly for Steve, though, you might want to wait to a portion in his presentation when he kind of takes a question break and goes ahead and prompts you for questions, because then he will be paying attention to what's going on in the questions panel. I won't keep you any longer from Steve. I'll go ahead and hide this poll, and Steve will hit the record button and go ahead and get rolling.
Steve did hit the record button. Thank you. I assume you guys can hear me well. Thank you for tuning in for the Wednesday regular trade of the week that we do this time every week. But it's good to know, as Scott pointed out, we do have a big contingency in the room this evening, first-time people that are probably kicking the tires and trying out the Trade Ideas platform for the first time. So that's good to know for me. I'll downshift a few items that could probably help onboard a few people. And yeah, I'm kind of flying alone tonight with Scott as my co-pilot. Scott's great on the subscription questions, some feature type questions, but save your other questions for me, because Scott's correct. I really don't look at the question box as I'm going through my prepared material here. So towards the end, I'll try and maybe field a few questions. So if you're throwing some questions out there and they don't get answered, it's just pretty much either Scott doesn't have the correct response for you, or I'm too involved in going through my presentation here. But we'll try and get to as many as we can. So trade of the week, before we get started, we'll do our disclaimer, make the attorneys happy, just to remind everybody that we are a content publisher, and you should not be taking this as any investment or trading advice. If you're looking for investment, financial, or trading advice, you should be seeking the advice of a licensed broker or RIA, and just be happy with them putting you into an index fund and charging you 1%. So with that said, again, welcome to the summer test drive event. We're going to try and do 4 of these every year, so we're in the throngs of the July summer test drive. In 3 months, we'll be doing another one, and we might even have some cool contests and other things to really spice up the week for our next open house. But for those of you that are here and trying, thank you very much. It has been a very overwhelming week so far with our staff with fielding questions, and everybody's new experience has a lot of questions, and it's been a very busy week, but we're really excited to see the interest that's coming in. It's been a great response, much more than we really would have thought. And just to remind the new people, if you do decide to go up and purchase a monthly or yearly plan, regardless of premium or regular standard TI features, we've got some great onboarding concierge services for you. Primarily the one-on-one training sessions with either myself, Jamie, Andy, or even Brad occasionally. Seasoned traders who know the product very well, and we're here to help and recognize that it is it's a very intense program, which can be intimidating for some people, and trading in itself can be very subjective. It's an art form, not a science, and so we recognize that everybody has different goals and different objectives, and so the one-on-one sessions are a great way to get you guys some custom one-on-one time. So I'm seeing one person complaining about the sound. I assume everything else is fine because nobody else is saying anything, so I'm just going to keep talking here. The onboarding, again, we've got numerous webinars throughout the week, Mondays and Thursdays, and then on Wednesdays we had one right after the open and one right now, the trade of the week, where we focus on a single trade of the week that was put out Monday morning in your email. And we'll talk a little bit about that coming up, how we derived it and where it could be going from here. So again, this slide, just to remind you, you're not alone when you sign up with Trade Ideas. We're right here to take you on board, and I didn't even mention the live trading room. I'm sure a lot of you have been in the live trading room. I think we had over 600 people in the room yesterday morning. And this is where the bulk of the new questions and answers are getting disseminated for people who are looking for what to get out of Trade Ideas. Barry does a phenomenal job of not only trading his own account, trading it well and demonstrating and educating, but being very patient. He has the patience of a saint in there asking or answering a lot of the questions that come through. So you are definitely not alone with Trade Ideas when you sign up. We wanted to make that perfectly clear on this particular slide. When we get into the AI, Holly's risk on, risk off, I'll just remind people there's a kind of a new paradigm in which we're looking at the trading history report from the AI, risk on and risk off. I'll go ahead and highlight that as we get into it as well. I'm also going to talk pretty quickly as we get into this seminar here about the alpha predator. This has been the most popular scan in the Trade Ideas platform community lately. It's getting tons of great write-ups and tons of great feedback from everybody in the live trading room. And if you're in the live trading room each morning, chances are you, as well as everybody else, is focused on what is coming out of these two windows. And I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about them going forward, but for the new people, you'll notice they're both the same here. Alpha Predator, one is a T window, and it's got a time slot here of 5 minutes, and one is an alert window. And what's the difference? Well, the difference is an alert window actually needs an event, something that we can timestamp and price stamp. So in this case, you'll see all these particular alerts that came out this morning, and this is a history, by the way. We've got our timestamp and also our price stamp. But I'm going to highlight something to you going forward. The very first alert that came through down here at, this is 9:41 Eastern, so 10, 11 minutes into the day, was OPTT. This was a phenomenal vehicle today to trade. The people in the live trading room were all over it. And I think Barry actually made his week on it today as well. He seemed to be pretty happy about the way that worked out. But not only was it coming across the A alert window, it's also coming across the T top list window. As you can see, I've basically pulled a history on both of these, and I'll show you the windows in a moment. This is 5 minutes after the open, so the 5-minute time span after the open West Coast had OPTT at the top of the list because it was sorted by a relative volume. It was doing 184 times its normal volume. So between this alert and this top list, there was really no reason to miss the high alpha that was in OPTT today, especially when you consider everybody in the live trading room was discussing it and all over it. So just a quick agenda here about what we're going to talk about this evening. I'll do a quick market recap. That's always interesting to do. Welcome the open house people with talk about the channel bar and a few of the basic configurations to get you started with a running start. We'll go into the Holly AI recap and talk about the day the AI had today. It was another decent, pretty good day in my opinion. And again, highlight the new risk management, risk on, risk off that we've been talking so much about. And then again, I'll go back into the Alpha Predator, show you a couple things, and also share that window because I know everybody hears me talking about how great this thing is. Why would you not want a copy of it? So I recognize that, and I'll be sharing that using the cloud function where I can drop in the scan parameters and the configurations into just a simple line of code, and you guys can receive that and use that scan going forward. The trade of the week, which is why we're really here, we'll touch on that as well. And then I've got maybe 5 or 6 price alerts I might set, which is also a great example to show how the price alerts work, what they are, and how to use them for some of the newer people. So with that said, let's take a look at SPY here. Let's take a look at where the market is, where we've come from, and where we might be looking to do. All right. On Monday's webinar, if you guys heard me, I've continued to keep these orange lines intact. This was basically our trading range, 112 down to this little level here, 203, which the head fake from the Brexit occurred through, and then like a beach ball underwater, right back up to the top with really only one just 2-day hitch, pull back and fill, stop, and then gap, city all the way back up. This is the way the market's been. The sellers are big frowny faces. You know, they're not getting what they are hoping to get. They're not getting the follow through. They're not getting that action. And we can debate, you know, with the merits of our economy and the global central bankers and what they're doing, but the footprints in the sand are really telling us the real story here. The bias is definitely up. The greatest thing that we had here in the last 6 days was a trade above this higher orange line, and if I back out, you'll see the significance of that. It was basically our prior high in the SPY. And so what we didn't want to do was what we did on this day, trade through it and then close back below and meander back below. Well, the very next day we solidly fought through it, and what we want to see is continued closes above that level. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 closes above the all-time high. I think it's pretty safe to say this is not going to be a head fake here. And as I had mentioned in the Monday webinar, I thought, you know, these 3 days, it could have turned into more, 4, 5, 6 days of pullback, but we needed to stay above this orange line, and this orange line could have become a bit of a support. You know, prior resistance can become current support, but we never even came back to test that, which again makes me even more bullish in the future going forward. We had a nice gap up today and leapt off this little 3-day flag here. So shorts not working. The bears are not in control. The bulls are firmly in control, and it's interesting to see if we just dive right into, you know, the Holly. The AI, I haven't seen very many short strategies. I think I saw one yesterday and maybe one even the day before, but for the most part, the AI strategies are firing on the long side, which is what we want to see. That seems to be the path of least resistance in the market. And if we look at today's trades, not a single short trade. So there's no directional bias fighting what the market's doing here with the AI. The AI is certainly on the right side of the market directional bias. So let's just kind of get right into it. 2 things. Risk on, $1.79 was the cumulative aggregate profit today in points based on Holly's exits. Holly's exits are going to be shown here in this window, and I've got the closed trades up so you can see again every trade that took place today. This profit column basically is just another way of saying risk off. As a matter of fact, I can just bring this duplicate column right over here. Risk off is the exact same as profit. So why don't we just get rid of profit while we're doing it here. Let's just go to our columns. We'll find profit. I believe it was that one, right? Yeah, we don't need that column anymore because we are now calling this column risk off. Holly is taking a risk off, abiding by some of her stops. Reduced risk and time stop is the most, profit save and time stop are going to be the most common exit reasons for risk off. Risk on just basically means what happens if that trade just continues on until the end of the day, and we can actually take a look at those 2 different values and determine, you know, was it a risk on day or a risk off today. Risk off was $1.79. These were all Holly's exits. Risk on was a bit higher at $2.57. And I'd like to point out here in the middle of the day, this risk off category was actually up about $5 at one point and then started to give some back. So there was $5 in alpha for the more aggressive risk on traders who did not take exits with Holly and stayed with some of the trades. And let's look at a couple of these trades here. To start with, we only had 4 strategies coming out today, and 2 of them really knocked the ball out of the park today. The first one, pushing through resistance, which is a new strategy, I might add, and you might start to be seeing some new strategies here going forward because we're continually trying to input fresh new ideas that are continually working and not rest on our laurels of old strategies, because as we all know, sometimes even old strategies can start to wear thin and the efficiencies wear out and they no longer work. But in this case, these 2 strategies outperformed. 9 trades for 88.9% on that strategy, 5 trades for 80% on this strategy. And then this one had 12 trades, and this one had 4 trades, but both for 50% winners. We'll talk a little bit about buyers stepping in, because people ask me, well, you know, we can't take every single trade, but how do I know, you know, which bias to have on certain trades and maybe not? Well, it all starts with the charts. I always want to look at the charts and find out what's going on there. But if we take a step back a little bit, we can discern a few things. Half halfway into the day, I should say. This particular buyer stepping in, I think, had about 8 or 9 trades, and it was about 33, 34%. It just wasn't cutting it. So it was a mental note to myself and anybody else paying attention. If additional buyers stepping in trades were to trigger later in the day, well, we already had 6 or 7 trades under our belt showing that it wasn't really performing, and it was a bit more statistically noisy than maybe the AI had thought. So less consideration, to say the least, when I see a strategy kind of floundering in the morning, and then if it continues to print some more trades later in the day, you might not give it as much weighting as you would had you been watching these two all day long, staying in the 75 to 88 percentile. Really nice strategy returns on those as well. So let's dig into a little bit on the risk on, risk off. Once again, the risk off column, we can sort by Holly's exits. Her best trade today was in INGN. A time stop, meaning the trade was open for the entire allotment. And we can see the first 5 or 6 trades here that Holly did take. The exit was a time stop. And then we get into what we call profit save. And the profit saves are when Holly basically goes forward and goes positive in a trade, and then the trade starts to reverse. And what we're not allowing the AI to do anymore is to have a green trade turn red and go negative, because I think most humans don't allow that to happen anyway. So profit save is more of a trailing stop type of a feature, and that has been really showing up a lot of the better performance that Holly's had as of lately, because there's really no reason to take a winning trade and roll it back over. And so that's what the time stop and profit save. Let's go back quickly to time stop, and you'll notice on every single one of our strategies here, you will see the time stop. And if anybody's confused, I've got 2 windows going here. This is basically the trades that the AI made today, closed positions, open positions. We have an empty box. But the main screen here is what strategies are on the starting lineup today. Real quickly, there's probably 35 or 40 of these strategies that go through the backtesting rigmarole every evening for hours on end while we're eating dinner and sleeping. Probably 1 million backtests or so, and final tweaks and different scans, where Holly says, okay, this is going to be the starting lineup for the day, and so this is kind of like, the starting players on the bench. They're ready to get in the game. There are days when they might be on the bench here, but there is no trade that's fired. That just means that the conditions did not line up for the way the trade needed to have for the statistical probabilities in order. But today we had all 4 strategies fire, so all 4 players got into the game. Now tomorrow you might see some different players. You might see some of the same. You might see more. You might even see a short strategy in there. It just all depends on how well those strategies tested over the evening. And you have a little bit of a thumbnail. What I like to do is sort this window by the win percentage. So every day I've got the top win percentage. In other words, today pushing through resistance at 71% win percentage was the best testing strategy of the bunch, down to this one down here, basically at the bottom of the cut, which is about 59.4. That's about as low as we're going to get. So, we look at Holly here as basically just another alert window. It's not signed up to be robo-traded by anybody. It's being kept for the masses to be disseminated. This is really the only artificial intelligence that's available to the retail traders. And yeah, we've had, some institutions and hedge funds say, well, how much do you want for it? We'll take it and we'll keep it under house. And that's not the idea. The idea is to share this really cool technology. And you guys are really on the cutting edge, early adoption of what AI is doing. So let's take a look at maybe a couple of trades, because I had a couple of notes on a few of them. I'm going to now sort by profit percentage of risk on. So what this means now is we're looking at all these trades. Which one made the biggest profit percentages if you held to the end of the day? The first one that comes to mind is this HTBX, and this was a smaller stock. If I zoom out a little bit on the daily chart, we can see it's a smaller stock, but it is definitely breaking out. So when you look at these Holly trades, when they come through, the first thing you really need to be doing is taking a look at a helicopter view and go to the bigger picture. What's the bigger picture on this HTBX? Well, it's been basing for a while, but it came to life today. Well, let's go over here to the 15-minute chart, and you can see the arrow highlights the candle, and it's a giant wick candle. And if we go to the right, we can see 81 cents was the trigger of Holly. So basically, it was right here that Holly triggered. we had a big wide range candle in this one, and that being the case, it was probably just a little bit too much risk, because this one was called reduced risk. Let's talk a little bit about that one. What I think happened is here the trade went up and then pulled back. Holly got in right here, and it went back a little bit more and never really got back to positive in the period of 35 to 45 minutes. And when a trade never really gets positive in the correct direction it's supposed to be going, after about 30 minutes, a time decay algorithm kicks in and starts to say, look, if this trade doesn't start to show life of going to positive anytime soon, there's no reason in risking it down here to the 65-cent stop level that was set. We're just going to go ahead and well, the AI is saying, I'm just going to go ahead and punch out of this for some reduced risk, because it's just not going in the direction we thought, and time is of the essence and time's running out. But what Holly did was generate an idea that worked extremely well today. However, it was just a little off on the timing. So the reduced risk got Holly out for a negative 1 cent loss. But if anybody else kept an eye on this and liked the way it was breaking out on the daily chart, there was 18 cents of alpha in there, which is about 22% on an 80-cent stock. So right call, just a little bit off on the entry and the volatility of managing the trade, but the trade that was identified by Holly went on to produce some really nice alpha for today in that particular one. Let's take a look at the next one I had. ETP I thought was of interest. ETP was also a profit save. So again, that is the fancy word for trailing stop. So let's go ahead and take a look here. The blue tag is the entry price, 39.24. So we're kind of midday on this one. It was on this first candle as indicated by that arrow. So what I think happened here is we had a nice trending stock, but it may have pulled back just a little too much, and the algorithm kicked in to protect the profit and not allow a green trade to turn red. So Holly only took 12 cents on this one. However, let's take a look at the daily chart and see what's the bigger picture here. Well, we were kind of breaking out of a nice little wedge down here, and as it was, is additionally we're above these little wicks right here. So there was some clear sailing a little bit higher. I wouldn't fault anybody for saying, I'm going to just, you know what, I'm going to stay in the risk on mode in this particular case and see if I can ride it through. So what I'm saying is take a look at that daily chart and see what's above. If there's any void or any upside non-resistance, you may want to stick around and stay in the risk on mode. Because guys, what we're not doing here is we're not saying this is a black box and this is your entry and this is your exit. We're doing our best, to give you guys the tools for great entries, and that's where the value of Trade Ideas is in the entry. Very common question. Well, these look like a bunch of day trading alerts. Why? Where's the swing trading alerts? Well, let's take a look at Zillow Group. You guys have heard of Zillow Group. Zillow Group had a really nice entry here midday and was kind of chopping back and forth between positive and negative. But as Holly saw, there was some alpha potential hiding in there and a big explosion towards the close. So I ask you, if somebody took this trade out there in Zillow Group today, you're looking at the daily chart, you got to ask yourself, well, why would I not maybe try and stick around? This thing's making 52-week highs. Do I really want to just snatch 50 cents out of the jaws of possibly $5? This could be a great swing trade. So what I'm saying is, Titleist and Ping and TaylorMade, they make great golf tools, but they don't stand behind you and tell you how to hit the shot. That's up to you, and that's up to you as the traders, is to hit your own shot. We're just going to try and give you the best tools possible, and I want to remind everybody that most of these trades have all-day alpha potential. Now, let's talk a little bit more about risk on, risk off. How do we know when risk on is risk off? Well, we really don't. All we can try and do is maybe look at a few clues. One of the clues that I try and look at are what's going on in the general market. Today, for instance, we had, kind of for lack of a better term, the horseshoe that I talk about. We had a gap up and a U-shaped failure to fill the gap and a move back to high. These are high momentum type pattern setups. And we got exactly that. We had a nice push for another hour or two and some nice trending stocks bringing up the rear. This, to me, and the general picture and the general backdrop, would be more like a risk-on type of day. Let the trends develop, let the trades work. Yesterday was a risk-off type of day, just a tight range back and forth. If you see a day where maybe we're green in the markets and then the markets turn red and then the markets turn green again, then the markets turn red again, those are statistically noisy days. Those are the kind of things that would make me want to suggest risk off and maybe just go for the quicker scalps. So that's really the nuts and bolts, behind this very unique software program that's 14 years in the making. There's been other people that have tried to duplicate it, eSignal and a few other that kind of threw their hands up and said, well, you know what, screw it. If we can't beat them, let's just join them. And so we're doing some really cool joint ventures and co-licensing with Scottrade, E-Trade, eSignal, and whatnot. This is 14 years of technology that just keeps building on itself, and it cannot be recreated. There's a lot of proprietary special sauce going into this stuff. So again, another great day for Holly. I'm happy to see that the open house people are catching some of this, what's going on. And if you're not in the live trading room, you're not really catching the whole picture, because Barry does a great job of showing, certain instances where Holly may have gotten out too soon, but a great way to go back in and maybe line up some alerts for some possible alpha later in the day. These alerts can stay active for the entire day. But again, we look at these as no more than a very high quality idea generation tool for you guys to take and use as seeing fit. We can't predict the future. We don't know if it's going to be a risk on or risk off day, but we can try and give you guys the tools to sniff out that stuff as you can on your own. All right, so quick back shift here for some of the new open house people. Again, this is a 14-year-old technology, and we've come a long way in 14 years. And one of the things we didn't have is what we have here on the channel bar. Because what you're looking at here is my default layout. Every time I open up Trade Ideas, we're going to go to my default layout. But we can go to quick channels. And the Holly channel is lined up really easily. If you just want to monitor Holly, you've got a great channel to just monitor Holly. Pre-market. Everybody starts in pre-market looking at the up gappers and the down gappers, trying to find out what's going to be in play, because many times the names that you see on these morning gappers are the names that are going to wind up showing on some of these high alpha alerts that we're going to talk about here in a second. But the best way really to take advantage of these channels is, in my opinion, what I like to do is grab and take what I like out of these channels, in this case the sector analysis. If you're not paying attention to sector analysis, you really should, because today was showing the biotechs were really strong and gold was really weak. And in the first 15-30 minutes of each market, this kind of stuff usually sorts itself out. So if you came in today wanting to go long really bad some gold stocks, you're probably better off knowing that you'd be going against the grain on these gold stocks. But getting back to all of these channels and all of these pre-configured, ready-to-go, plug-and-play type of alerts, what I like to do is grab the ones that I like and bring them into my mix on my default layout. So I'm just going to go save to cloud, and I'm just going to save it to my cloud. And what you guys need to realize is, to get back to your default layout, that resides on your local computer, so it's just a file load layout command. And let's bring in my default layout back again. And then I'm ready to receive. I'm ready to receive the cloud layout. So file, load from cloud. And you can see sector analysis is right there waiting for me. So what I just did is I went through and shopped and perused through these channels, found a couple of windows that I like of interest, and then I can bring them into my default layout. So I've always got them available. In this particular case, I just minimize this one and keep that one minimized for when I'm looking for the morning sector. Okay. Do we get alerted by Holly so we can get into the trade as well? Yeah, Manju. I keep open positions just as such. If you wanted to, you could have a second window and have the second window show your closed positions. But in the open positions, the way I do it is I right-click and go to Actions, and I select Play Sound. And in my case, I want to hear text-to-speech. So I'll actually hear the actual symbol being called out by the female computer voice. Just makes it seem more Holly-like. So that's how you do it. But what you do is, once you've set that up, you will need to save your layout. So it does prompt you whenever you leave to go exit Trade Ideas. You can release, you can save your layout with just a simple yes. But we're not ready to leave just yet. We got more to talk about. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, showing you the virtues of using the cloud to grab what you can off of these channel bars. Now, let's go back and talk what we teased a little bit about earlier on the Alpha Predator. And again, the alpha predator, I've got two versions here. This one went back to live, so we'll just keep that real time. But no, let's go back and show you what we had today, just to remind you guys that this OPTT trade was coming out right out of the chute. I mean, and this alpha predator has really been given some great ideas lately. Let's take a look at this OPTT and when it came out. Here's our arrow right there, and it came out at a price of 10.21 basically. So pretty much this first candle set up the day that there was going to be some hopefully continued alpha. The same thing going on with our alpha predator, and just to quickly show you on the alpha predator top list, the way to get a history to show up on that is to go time frame, use historical data, and then I'll just pop in like the first 5 minutes, 6:35 a.m. Pacific time. And as you can see, if we sort, which we can do on these by relative volume, we can see that alpha predator is right to the top. It came out of the gate with an unbelievable amount of relative volume to what it normally does, and was on its way. So these two alerts, in addition to the live trading room, was giving a lot of early warning into the trade of the day, OPTT. So what we did here, and I'm sure a lot of people have a question, is we started off with the alpha predator. And let's just take a quick look at the configuration. And as you guys know or may not know, a T window does not have new highs, new lows. It just refreshes every 30 seconds. And so in this case, the 30-second refresh is sorted by relative volume, but everything on here has to be meeting these filter criterias. So let's take a look at some of these filter criterias and see what they mean. The first one, we have change from the close, and this is our minimum side, so 0.2%. And again, if you use these buttons are your friends. The server understands that we're looking for something that says the price was up at least 0.2% from previous close. Check. So we checked our work. That's what we've got. Volume also has to have traded 100,000 shares before the alert will even pop up. So that was taken care of very quickly on OPTT. Here's where it gets really interesting. The volume in 5 minutes was 400% of a normal 5-minute volume bar. And that's exactly what Trade Ideas does, is it breaks down everything into different time frames and knows what the baseline values are, so when something unusual happens, we can actually have it come to our attention. So anything on the top alpha predator top list has to be doing at least currently 400% of normal 5-minute candle volume. So things that are definitely in play showing up with that particular filter. The price is minimum at 50 cents or higher, so we'll take things at 51 cents or higher. Change for the 5 minutes. The 5-minute change has to be up at least 2%, so it has to be moving higher in the last 5 minutes. Position and range. This is today's range. A 70 percentile means it has to be at least 70% off of today's lows, 30% away from a new high today. And then change going back a full 5 days, it's got to be positive by at least 0.1% going back the last 5 days. So that's what we've got for the configuration of the top predator. So what I'm going to show you is, okay, this was a top list, and this is what we were using for the longest time. How did we get this configuration into a price alert? Because the price alert, an A window, actually needs an event. And in this case, the event was just a simple 5-minute high. So everything was dropped into the window-specific filters like we've seen before. We just looked at a minute ago, maybe a little bit of a change here and there. But for the most part, everything the same. But it's an alert that comes out after the stock is making a new 5-minute high based on that filter criteria. And so once we have that price stamp and that time stamp, that's when we can actually go in and start back testing these strategies. And so we basically had to figure out a way to get the alpha predator from the top list filters into a alert window that we could have as a possible strategy going forward. And we do actually have that strategy in Holly now, so you may see it any day now going forward. The alpha predator is now a Holly strategy based loosely on taking this top list, taking the filters, translating them into an alert window, and doing it. Let me give you a quick example of how to do that. So you take any top list. You guys are all familiar with how to use the cloud, how we've been saving and sharing and using the cloud. And so what we do is we will take a different step. Before the cloud, we had something called collaborate. And Collaborate would also create some sort of a crazy hieroglyphic link that could be shared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all, once again using the Collaborate feature, copy all, and then I need to figure out how to make a new alert window. So I'd go to New Alert Window. I basically would start from scratch, double click, select my alert, a new 5-minute high, and now I'm just going to go ahead and launch that as is, because we have to just launch it as is to do the Collaborate. So now to collaborate all of those filters into this alert, we simply use the Collaborate feature again, paste all. Now we have a alert window that is loosely based off of the filter settings of a top list window, just using the Collaborate as the way to transfer over all of that information. So again, these are our favorite windows right now. If you're not in the live trading room with Barry every morning in the group, the pack hunting, the pack is using the Alpha Predator and the Alpha Predator alert here to try and find the next OPTT tomorrow. So with that said, now that you guys fully understand what this is, I'll go ahead and I will share this and save it. And I'm going to share it and copy it. Now using the GoToWebinar toolbar here, if you expand the chat window, I've already included my bio in there, so for those of you who are curious who's talking at you, there's a link in there to my bio, but I am going to drop in the Alpha Predator top list first. So I'll just paste that, and so in the chat window, if you want to receive that cloud link, just copy link, and it's in your clipboard, and then you basically on your end, if you watch my screen here, you just go File, Load from Cloud, and as long as you've copied that link, you'll be able to load that link using that action step right there. So as far as the alert window goes, pretty much same configuration but a different tool. Let's save and share this as well. And I'll do Alpha Predator alert window. All right, space and paste. All right, so the two windows I've just been talking about, you guys have access to in the chat window. Just take advantage of the right-click, copy link, and use your cloud. Where to next? All right, the trade of the week. This is the fun part, especially when the trade of the weeks are working. As usual, I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, we like to use the trend change lubricant to try and find our short list of trade of the week candidates. So the OPTT alerted from the alpha window. Yes, Rick, those two showed OPTT very early this morning, and I anticipate they're going to show some great upside alpha tomorrow morning as well. But back to the trade of the week, I like to use the trend change lubricant. This is a top list that's looking for stocks that are trying to base and change their trend with a little special sauce known as the short float. For those of you who are not aware of the short float significance, if you take a short position, you're basically borrowing shares from your broker, and your broker has to report those shares in the inventory, which are all accounted for under the complete float, which is the next column right here, float. So this one, Shield, has 21 million shares in the float, not really that big. However, 67% of those 21 million are registered with their brokers as being held by short sellers. Well, what happens when short sellers are wrong and the price explodes? Well, we have what's called a short squeeze. And for the greatest example I've seen off of this trend change lubricant is US Steel X. Back here in March was showing up all over the trend change lubricant with a 56% short the float. So using this orange line here is the greatest example I love to show, a simple pivot line, support, congestion, resistance. Once the trade price got above that technical pivot, the smart short sellers realized they were wrong and they needed to get out and cover. So we get nice short squeezes off of these type of basing events. And so that is why I am sorting, not by the relative volume, which shows some interesting stuff, but I am sorting by what has the highest short float percent. And what caught our eye this weekend was Solar City. Solar City, let's first take a look at the levels here. And yes, we're fully aware that Tesla has purchased it. It's not final yet, but there's still some technical issues here that Solar City had to work off. Primarily 51% short the float. Well, the trade trigger was essentially this green line that triggered here on Monday. And we got a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, really nice move very quickly. out of Solar City. And in my opinion, it was due. It was knocking on this door right here and closed with a nice little hiccup, looking like it wanted to close. It did close near highs. So it was an anticipation trade, and thankfully it did fire because the email said it was a 25.15 buy trigger. The price triggered on Monday and never looked back. So this is really the litmus test and the recipe that we like to use every week, because some of these trades can really continue to go. Pandora was a great call down here at these levels. Did have a nice pullback, built a new higher low, moved higher, and it's still moving higher. So once again, I'll remind you, we're selling the tools, but we're not going to stand behind you and tell you when to take profit and when to get out. That really is up to you, you guys, the traders, wearing the trader's hat. Let's just check in real quick with the last trade of the week, AKS. Had a pretty gnarly pullback this week, but the trade was live from down here. And so we had almost 18%, I believe, at one point, 18% at the high up here of alpha that was generated. So, you know, nothing really to sneeze at here, 18% alpha, and pullbacks are part of the game. They are going to happen, but what's probably happened here is we're going to be building a higher low and maybe moving higher. So the trade of the week is not so much to be a day trade or a one-day trade. It's to try and find something that's going to really work for you for a little while. And I believe that AKS is still intact, especially with this nice downside wick popping right back up. I think that was probably it for the stops, and I think AKS should be building and moving higher going forward. So that's the trade of the week. That's kind of the thought behind the trade of the week and how we find them. It's the first place we go on the weekend to see what's at the top of the list here. So let's go ahead and set a couple of price alerts, because I have a few in mind off of the trend change lubricant here, and see if we can find something. SQ is at the top. It's got a really nice short float percentage, but this one was set yesterday and has already kind of moved through it. But that's not to say that the shorts are going to come home today and realize that I might be behind the 8 ball here, because as you can see, got kind of a head and shoulders bottom, a really nice base that's being built here, and we're really not too far above this particular line. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to do this so we can just start fresh again on price alerts. With SQ, even though it's a winner, I'm going to delete this one for now, and then we're going to reset it and make it live again. So with SQ, right here on today's chart, if we can get back above 965 and go 966, let's create a new price alert and see if we can get some follow through tomorrow if this one comes up. I'll remind myself I got it from the trend change lubricant window, and it has an amazing whopping 68% short. These are the things I like to remind myself as I'm typing these notes, because when if it goes off tomorrow, maybe I forgot that. This is crucial information to know. So we'll go ahead and set that and see if we can get some follow through tomorrow on this one. Again, looking, I mean, it's had a really nice fall, but a big base has been built, and those 68% short sellers are not quite getting what they wanted, especially today. So one more day of follow through, it could spark a possible short squeeze for them. Shield, you know, I really like the short float at 67, again 68%, but this one's been a tough one. This is Sears Holdings. Sears, it's been just a dog forever. The shorts probably know something that we don't, and I want to say that I don't like this technical pattern here as well. We had a horrific fall from 18 down to like 10, and so we're kind of recovering off of that. But it seems like we're just, when I've seen these patterns in the past, it's like you're just kind of climbing out on the tree waiting for the next branch to break because of the downtrend. Now, if this was the opposite and this type of action was coming from an uptrend that was coming up from down below, that'd be a whole different thing. That's like a very bullish bull flag or a pennant. But in this case, it's just a rising wedge, and I firmly believe this one has disappointed so many times before. I don't think it's going to have any follow through. You can see though that I did set an alert. It did trigger, and it actually closed below that trigger. So this one I don't have a lot of hope for, and I'm not going to mark that one up for future. Solar City is our trade of the week. That one is intact. We talked about that. SSI, I do like this one, and here's what I'm liking about this one. Yeah, it's had a gap down, but it's had a chance to close its gap for the most part. But it's coming back. After closing its gap, it failed, went back to lows, built a new high, built another new low, new low, higher low, another possible higher low here, tried to shake the trees down below, couldn't get any follow through, and popped right back up. And I'm just going to grab the high end of this range right here, and put an alert because I think there could be some follow through with 56% short the float additionally. So it looks like the high is 579 on today, 579 on this wick, so right to the penny. 580 is going to warrant a price alert, and I'm going to remind myself I got this off the trend change lubricant, and this thing is sitting with 46% short float. So if this thing triggers tomorrow, I like, and again I'll just draw this line for you so it's easier to see, we're looking for technical pivot levels of interest. We're not just pulling levels out of our head saying, okay, well it goes higher tomorrow, let's participate. No, like on that ex-US Steel example I made way back in March, that was a very definable pivot level. Support, congestion, resistance. As soon as it got above that pivot level, it was on. So that's what we're kind of looking for and hoping for in this particular case as well, that the short sellers realize they're behind the 8 ball if they get above this orange line. Zoom Z, I think I had one I liked in this one as well. No, it actually has been going for a few days already, so nothing there. Zillow Group, I did like that as well, but it's probably more for a higher trend trending. This one's just been trending as well too. I prefer to see stuff that's really going sideways at certain levels of interest. This one just triggered today as well. I'm going to leave it as is. You know, you guys could watch SunPower tomorrow if it's able to get back above today's high of 16.15. You might want to keep an eye on that one. I had a few more that I liked, but they were down lower, I believe. Shake Shack was one of them. I like the way Shake Shack is trying to break back out here. Very long sideways congestion pattern going on down there. It popped up to 40 and reversed, and now it's back again with vengeance at this level. So I'm just going to put a level right above the high, 40.07. So we'll go 40.08. We can correct that right here, 40.08. We're going long. This one doesn't quite have the short float percentage, but 15% is still something. But I'm going to remind myself where I got it, trend change lubricant as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and set that one. And I think I had one more set, CMGI. Let's CMGI, CMG, excuse me. CMG, not CMGI. CMG. They've had their troubles lately. We all know about Chipotle, but down here, solid base. Numerous attempts to break. So it looks like 385 here is going to be the low end of this particular daily chart, at least for now. Moved up, pulled back, and now it's probably going to try, in my opinion, try and get back above these highs. 421.97, 422.18 on that. So I'm going to go 422.19. And I'd like to be known, I would like to be alerted if Chipotle Mexican Grill gets back above 422.19. So that alert is set as well. And again, that's just kind of a quick tutorial of how I like to use the trend change lubricant to look for longer term type trades that aren't so much a day trade, but maybe something that can be held for a few days and can move higher on some good short float. So with that said, I'm going to drop, as promised, the price alerts for those that want to have those price alerts that were just set. I'll just grab these that were working here from today. Let me try that again. Let me share these 5 selected price alerts. And I'm just going to put that into the chat window as well under price alerts. And for those that have them, you receive them just like any other cloud link, and you are good to go with that. So that's what I've got for you guys tonight. A lot of people in the room, live room, a lot of people in the webinar tonight, been getting a lot of emails, but keep the emails coming. We've got a full week still. If you just signed up today, you still have a couple of extra days next week before your 5-day trial expires. But we do want to thank you all. And again, in that live trading room, we've got a technical support tab, which is a great tab. If you don't want to disturb the flow of what's going on in the trading room, use the technical support tab. We have a few people in there monitoring that tab to get you guys the answers you need real quick. So with that said, I'm just going to turn this back over to Scott, and he's going to talk a little bit more about what we've got coming up on the open house and a special promo to reward the people for the open house. Are you there, Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So yeah, the open house test drive continues through the remainder of the week, and those of you that signed up after the 18th still have 5 total days. So if you signed up today, you have through Tuesday. We're a software as a service company. We got 2 tiers, the standard and premium. The standard's $888 a year. The premium's $1888 a year. But in order to get access to Holly, which is the AI, price limit alerts, and all that high-tech stuff, you really need to be on the premium, and we made that easy for you. You can use this code through July 31st. Key to drive, all caps, just like you see it there. And what that does is it takes 20% off, basically. So it's $388 right off of that $1888 a year. It drops it down to $1,500 for your first year. It's a great price. Go ahead and do that to get on the premium annual, or you can get on the premium monthly instead of $188. It's $150. It takes $38 off right away, or you can get that similar discount, a little bit less of a discount, more like 15% off of the $888 a year, $99 a month to get into the standard. I really do recommend getting in on board on the premium, though. It's you get to save more, and also you get access to the AI technology. It's the best way to go. Just to help you remember this, I put a handout in your handouts panel in your GoToWebinar interface. So go ahead and click on the handouts panel in your GoToWebinar interface. There's a download PDF, has the link to the new beta, as well as this slide here that has the product code. The webinar was recorded. As soon as we get that up on our YouTube channel and the email prep, we'll go ahead and send you an email that will have a link to the replay of the webinar in its entirety, and also a reminder about the sale and the test drive events. Thanks, Steve, for the great presentation. Those of you that want to contact us, you can follow us. Follow Steve. He's at Today Trader on Twitter. Follow Dan Merkin at Trade Ideas 1. We're also at Trade Ideas. We're Trade Ideas Pro on Facebook. You can like us there to see some interesting things. If you have any questions, email info@trade-ideas.com. That goes directly to the help desk. If you want to reach Steve, he's Steve at. Dan is Dan at. I'm Scott at. It's pretty easy to get to. The phone number is great for billing issues during daytime hours, but if you have a technical issue, do email info@trade-ideas.com. That drops you directly into our help desk software for the quickest response from the right Trade Ideas team member. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully everyone goes to the trading room tomorrow. It's going to be another good day. And we're going to have another webinar tomorrow afternoon. It's called the Trading Studio. You either got an invitation during this webinar, or it's going out shortly after this webinar ends.